Blackwater paid bribes to Iraq after 17 died. Top executives at Blackwater Worldwide authorized secret payments of at least $1 million to Iraqi officials that were intended to silence their criticism and buy their support after a September 2007 episode or incident in which Blackwater security guards fatally shot 17 innocent Iraqi civilians in Baghdad, according to former company officials. Blackwater, which is now XE but pronounced Z, approved the cash payments in December 2007, the officials said, as protests over the deadly shootings at Nisour Square stoked long-simmering anger inside Iraq about reckless practices by the security company's employees. American and Iraqi investigators had already concluded that the shootings were unjustified. Top Iraqi officials were calling for Blackwater's ouster from the country, and company officials feared that Blackwater might be refused an operating license it would need to retain its contracts with the State Department and private clients, worth hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars annually. 4 former executives said in interviews that Gary Jackson, who was then Blackwater's president, had approved the bribes, and that the money was sent from Amman, Jordan, where the company maintains an operations hub, to a top manager in Iraq. Blackwater's strategy of paying off or buying off the government officials, which would have been illegal under American law, created a deep rift inside the company, according to the former executives. They said that Cofer Black, who is then the company's vice chairman, and a former top CIA and State Department official, learned of the plan from another Blackwater manager while he was in Baghdad discussing compensation for families of the shooting victims with United States Embassy officials. Alarmed about the secret payments, Mr. Black cut short his talks and left Iraq. Soon after returning to the United States, he confronted Eric Prince, the company's chairman and founder, who did not dispute that there was a bribery plan, according to a former Blackwater executive familiar with the meeting. Mr. Black resigned the following year. The 4 former Blackwater executives who had held high-ranking posts at the company would speak only on condition of anonymity. 2 of them said they took part in talks about the payments. The 2 others said they had been told by several Blackwater officials about the discussions. In agreeing to describe those conversations, the 4 officials said they were very troubled by a pattern of questionable conduct by Blackwater, which had led them to leave the company. Blackwater continued operating as a prime contractor, providing security for the United States Embassy in Baghdad until spring, when the Iraqi government said it would deny the company an operating license. The State Department replaced Blackwater with a rival in May, but the company still does some work for the department in Iraq on a supposed temporary basis. 5 Blackwater guards involved in the shooting are now facing federal manslaughter charges, and their trial is scheduled to start in February in Washington. A 6th guard pleaded guilty in December. The company has never faced criminal charges in the case, although the Iraqi victims brought a civil lawsuit in federal court against Blackwater and Mr. Prince. Separately, a federal grand jury in North Carolina, where the company has its headquarters, has been conducting a lengthy investigation into it. One of the former executives said that he had told federal prosecutors there about the plan to pay off Iraqi officials to drop their inquiries into the Nisour Square case. If Blackwater followed through, the company or its officials could face charges of obstruction of justice and violating the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which bans bribes to foreign officials. Federal prosecutors in North Carolina have interviewed a number of former Blackwater employees about a variety of issues, including allegations of weapons smuggling. According to several former employees who say they have testified before the grand jury or been interviewed by prosecutors, as well as lawyers familiar with the matter, 2 former employees have already pleaded guilty to weapons charges. Since 2001, Blackwater has undergone explosive growth, not only from security contracts in Iraq and Afghanistan and Pakistan, but also from classified work for the Central Intelligence Agency that includes taking part in a program to assassinate leaders of Al-Qaeda and to load missiles on Predator drones, although there have been reports of some of the missiles falling off the Predator drones before they even reach the target, improperly loaded missiles. The Nisour Square shooting was the bloodiest and most controversial episode or massacre involving Blackwater in the Iraq War. At midday on September 16, 2007, a Blackwater convoy opened fire on innocent Iraqi civilians in the crowded intersection, spraying automatic weapons fire in ways that investigators later claimed was indiscriminate, wildly shooting in all directions, and even launching grenades into a nearby school. 17 Iraqis were killed, and dozens more were wounded. The matter set off an international outcry and intense debates in Iraq and the United States over the role of private contractors or mercenaries in war zones. Many Iraqis condemned Blackwater, which they had long seen as an arrogant rogue operation, and the Prime Minister al-Maliki declared that the Blackwater shooting was a challenge to his nation's sovereignty. His government opened investigations into the episode and previous fatal shootings by Blackwater guards. In other words, there was more than just one fatal shooting incident, and he threatened to bar the company from operating in the country. Those responses deeply worried Blackwater officials. Before the Nisour Square shootings, the company had operated in Iraq without a license, largely because the Iraqi government or the U.S. government had not enforced the rules. Being blocked from the country would have been costly. The State Department deal was Blackwater's single biggest contract. From 2004 through today, the company has collected more than $1.5 billion for its work, protecting American diplomats and providing air transportation for them inside Iraq. It would hurt us, Mr. Prince, the chairman said in an interview in January about losing the diplomatic security contract. It would not be a mortal blow, but it would hurt us. The former Blackwater executives said it was not entirely clear who proposed paying off Iraqi officials, but most likely it was the chairman. At that time, Mr. Black was in a series of discussions with the Deputy Chief of Mission at the American Embassy in Baghdad about compensation payments to the victims. According to former Blackwater officials, Mr. Black was furious, extremely furious, when he learned that the payoff money was being funneled into Iraq. And there's something very wrong with this picture. Perhaps the State Department should have cut all contracts with Blackwater, which is now XE pronounced Z. And on top of this, there's something much more going on. And these are more signs of the end times. Transition days. Transition is a process, ongoing, happening daily, all around the world.